I want you to imagine, just for a second, dedicating 8 long years of your life to a single pitch.
Just relentless pitching.
Right, exactly. Like you are driving and flying back and forth to Los Angeles, you're walking into boardrooms, pitching a television concept over and over and over again. And every single time, you're getting laughed out of the room.
Which is brutal.
It is. Every network passes. I mean, most people reasonably would quit after year 1. Maybe year 2 if they're insanely stubborn. Society would basically tell you that you were delusional. But what if those 8 years of constant humiliating rejection were actually, the ultimate business plan?
It completely upends how we are taught to process failure. I mean, we are so deeply conditioned to see a no from a gatekeeper as like a hard stop sign.
Right.
We treat it as a final verdict on the quality of our idea rather than what it often really is, which is a forced incubation period.
A forced incubation period. I love that. And that actually brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We're exploring the core mechanics behind Episode 2 of a massive strategy document we've been analyzing called the Monkey Garage Playbook. Specifically, we are looking at an episode titled 8 Years of No.
Yeah, and this document draws a really wild, unexpected line.
It really does. It connects the gritty, grease-stained origin story of Richard Rawlings and Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas all the way to the modern digital empire of a creator in Spain named Mickey Stret.
Which sounds crazy, but the parallel is striking once you look under the hood. You have one guy flipping rusty cars in the early 2000s and another guy flipping digital attention today.
2 totally different worlds.
On the surface, yeah, entirely different industries. But the underlying architectural framework of how they force the gatekeepers to open the doors, it's identical.
It is. So our goal today is to extract that core lesson for you, the listener. We want to figure out why building the garage, whether that is, a physical shop, a digital studio, a portfolio, or whatever your specific thing is, before you ever ask for permission, is the absolute secret to forcing the world to finally say yes. Okay, let's unpack this. Take us back to Texas.
Yeah.
How does this gas monkey story actually begin?
Well, it begins with a guy in Fort Worth who was obsessed with cars from a very young age. But the crucial detail everyone misses in the myth-making of Richard Rawlings is the financial mechanism.
Right, because he wasn't just handed a check.
Exactly. He didn't have venture capital investors or a rich uncle bankrolling his dream. He actually tried the straight life for a while. He worked as a paramedic, a police officer, a firefighter.
Wow.
Yeah, and eventually he went the entrepreneurial route, but not in cars. In 1999, he started a printing and advertising company called Lincoln Press.
A completely unrelated, somewhat boring B2B business.
Very standard, very stable. And he built Lincoln Press up over 5 years. Then in 2004, he sold it.
He just cashed out.
He liquidated the safe, stable asset to fund the highly risky dream. So he took that capital and opened Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas. But to really understand this strategy, we have to paint the picture of what this dream actually looked like on day 1.
Oh, it was rough.
It was miserable. It was a tiny 1,200 square foot shop. It had no heat to deal with the freezing Texas winters, no air conditioning for the brutal 100-degree summers, and 0 running water.
Wait, hold on. Let me stop you there because the math is bothering me. 8 years is a massive chunk of a human life.
Right.
How does someone fly back and forth to L.A., pitch a show, get rejected, and then fly back to a freezing garage without just running out of money and going bankrupt?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the rejection was the forcing function for his business acumen. He wasn't playing the game of a starving artist begging a network for a handout to start a shop.
Okay.
He was playing the game of an architect building a fortress in plain sight. I mean, he had to figure out how to buy a rusted-out shell of a car, build it fast, and sell it high just to keep the lights on and buy the next plane ticket to L.A.
So he partnered with Aaron Kaufman, right?
Yeah, a brilliant young mechanic, and they just started grinding out actual profits.
So the survival of the shop couldn't rely on the dream of a TV show. The shop had to survive on its own merits.
Exactly. The TV show was the ultimate ambition, but the physical garage was the engine. Because Rawlings didn't just want a successful local hot rod shop. He wanted a worldwide brand on the level of Jesse James or Orange County Choppers.
Which were massive at the time.
Huge. And he noticed something crucial about the car shows on TV back then. They were way too technical. They only appealed to absolute gearheads.
No, right, the ones where they just show someone welding for 20 minutes.
Yeah. He saw that his own wife and daughter would literally leave the room when their shows came on. So he envisioned a show about the hunt, the negotiation, the ticking clock, the stack of physical cash. He wanted something with broad mainstream appeal.
So he wasn't just a mechanic who happened to get discovered by a wandering camera crew.
Not at all.
He built Gas Monkey Garage from day one specifically to be a television set.
Yes. For almost 8 years, he shot his own sizzle reels. He would constantly drive or fly out to LA, pitch this concept, and the networks passed.
8 years of no.
8 years. But during those 8 years of networks telling him no, he was forced to perfect the machine. He was refining the distressed monkey logo, the brand colors, his own on-camera persona, and the dynamic with his master mechanic, Aaron.
Aaron was sort of the pragmatic filter to his wild ideas, right?
Exactly. So he didn't build a garage hoping to get a TV show. He built a TV show disguised as a garage.
I love that framing.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a little on the romanticism of this. If you pitch a movie script or a business idea for 8 years and get nowhere, at a certain point, the feedback loop is telling you that your idea is just bad.
Yeah, usually.
Society calls you a starving artist who can't take a hint. Did he just get lucky that tastes changed, or was he actively weaponizing that time?
He was weaponizing it through deliberate refinement. In 2011, when Pilgrim Studios, they're the production company behind American Chopper, when they finally took a chance on him and Discovery greenlit Fast and Loud, the network realized they couldn't own him.
Wow.
The 8 years of rejection allowed him to refine the intellectual property so thoroughly that when the cameras finally rolled in 2012, they were just documenting an already profitable, fully formed ecosystem that Rawlings owned completely.
That is wild. Okay, let's pivot from the physical garage in 2004 Dallas to the digital landscape of today. The playbook draws a direct line from Richard Rawlings to a modern creator named Mickey Stott.
Yeah.
How on earth does a Texas car shop map onto a guy in Spain building a digital empire?
Well, it maps perfectly when you look at the mechanics: attention, leverage, and skill acquisition. Mickey Stott is a creator based in San Sebastián de los Reyes, near Madrid.
Okay.
He operates in photography, video, podcasting, and music production. And just like Rawlings had his grueling 8 years of driving to LA and getting laughed at by executives, Mickey went through his own gauntlet.
But a digital gauntlet.
Exactly. His rejection wasn't a guy in a suit saying no. His rejection was the silent, agonizing indifference of the internet algorithm.
The digital void. You post something and the internet just scares back with 0 views.
It's the worst. And the source material gives us the painful specifics on this. Mickey was putting out a podcast called Just Content, Why Not?
Yeah.
He recorded episode number 4 to an audience of exactly 12 listeners.
Oh man, 12 listeners, yeah.
He hit episode 30, and the audio was absolutely terrible. He was sending out countless direct messages to potential guests and potential corporate clients, and those messages were completely ignored.
Brutal.
He recorded over 100 podcast episodes to incredibly low listenership.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let me play devil's advocate again.
Go for it.
In the digital world, low metrics are universally seen as a massive failure. If you post a video 100 times and nobody cares, isn't that just the market telling you to stop? How do you distinguish between this forced incubation you mentioned earlier and just a guy wasting his life on a terrible idea?
The distinction comes down to deliberate practice versus blind repetition. If you record 100 bad episodes and learn nothing, you're just wasting time.
Right.
But Mickey used the silence as a sandbox. Think about what happens if you go viral on episode 4.
Oh, you suddenly have a massive audience.
Exactly. Massive audience, incredible pressure, and you are locked into whatever amateur skills you had at that exact moment.
You'd be terrified to experiment because you might lose the audience you just accidentally won.
Precisely. The lack of an audience allowed Mickey to fail in private. Those 100 failed episodes were the exact painful repetitions he needed. When the audio was terrible on episode 30, he didn't just shrug. He had to learn EQ, compression, and sound design.
So he was building the skill set.
That's where he mastered complex camera work. That's where he learned how to edit video at 2 a.m., how to conduct an interview, how to script a narrative. He was using the silence to build a massive inventory of technical skills.
And what he was building in the shadows wasn't just a podcast. The playbook details this highly sophisticated 3-part empire.
Yeah.
Break that down for us.
Sure. So if we map it to the Gas Monkey universe, Mickey has his own version of Lincoln Press. You know, the boring business that funds the dream.
Right, the B2B printing company.
Yeah. For Mickey, that's doing client work, B2B, social media promo, photography, and video for other companies. It keeps the lights on. But underneath that, he is building a core factory and a fortress.
A factory and a fortress.
Yeah. The factory is an entity he calls Schmidtstall.
Schmidtstall. I mean, it literally sounds industrial and heavy.
Oh, it is entirely uncompromising. It's a music project producing raw, 150 BPM industrial techno.
Wow.
The visual world he built for it is steel gray, hazard yellow, dark server rooms, flashing red lights, no face, just immense auditory pressure. That is the equivalent of the physical gas monkey garage.
That makes sense.
It is a pure craft that nobody else can easily replicate because it requires all those audio and visual skills he learned failing on the podcast.
So the client work funds him. The Schmidtstall Techno Project is his creative factory. What is the fortress?
The Fortress is his monetization engine, a brand called Mike. This is where he operates as a cybersecurity and AI influencer on LinkedIn, targeting high-level corporate clients.
Okay, stop there. If you just list those out to anyone, a real-world podcast, an industrial techno music project, and a B2B cybersecurity consulting brand, it sounds like 3 different people with 3 completely disconnected hobbies.
It really does.
Why on earth would a guy trying to sell cybersecurity consulting on LinkedIn be making 150 BPM underground techno?
Because the genius of the Monkey Garage playbook strategy is realizing that they're not 3 separate brands, they are one cohesive world with 3 doors. The Mike brand doesn't use generic corporate stock photos of people in suits shaking hands. It uses the exact same dark, industrial, armored aesthetic as the Schmidtstall Techno project.
Ah, I see.
The music he produces actually sounds like a security operations center under a massive cyber attack at 3 a.m.
Let's dig into the psychology of that. Why does that specific aesthetic work for a corporate client?
Put yourself in the shoes of a chief information security officer, a CISO at a major company. Their entire job revolves around existential stress, digital warfare, ransomware attacks, protecting infrastructure.
High stakes.
Insanely high stakes. A soft corporate pitch doesn't resonate with their nervous system. But an aesthetic built on defense, armor, steel, and high-pressure industrial sounds that subliminally communicates strength and impregnability.
Wow.
Mickey is taking the raw, creative credibility of the underground music scene and applying it as a visual and auditory wrapper for high-level corporate security.
Rawlings did the exact same thing.
Yep.
He didn't make his real fortune just turning wrenches on classic cars. He made his millions when the aesthetic of the gritty, rebel, hot rod lifestyle started selling beer, energy drinks, and merchandise to people who would never even own a classic car.
Exactly. Mickey is monetizing the aesthetic of defense. The techno is the soul. Mickey is the founder who builds it all on camera using his video skills, and Mike is the premium service that monetizes that industrial aesthetic for high-paying corporate clients.
That is brilliant.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes down to the power dynamics of risk mitigation for the gatekeepers.
Risk mitigation.
Yeah. Why does this specific type of silent, grinding repetition ultimately force the gatekeepers to open the gates? Let's look back at Pilgrim Studios. When they finally took a chance on Gas Monkey, they didn't have to take on the massive financial and creative risk of building a set from scratch.
They didn't have to hire casting directors to find a charismatic host.
Nope. They didn't have to invent an attitude for the show.
Because Rawlings brought it all fully formed. He showed up and essentially said, here is the location. Here is the inventory of cars. I already know how to act on camera. Here is my mechanical foil.
Right.
The network didn't have to invent a single thing.
The network needed him to fill their airtime with guaranteed, heavily de-risked content. And we see the exact same power dynamic shifting with Mickey's store. Because of the grueling reps of those 100 podcast episodes and the late nights mastering video editing and audio production for Schmidtstall, he can now present Mike to those high-level CISOs on LinkedIn in a way nobody else can.
These CISOs are serious people dealing with massive budgets. They don't have the time or patience to take a gamble on an amateur.
Exactly. When these clients look at the Mike brand today, they don't see a beginner pitching a vague idea about AI security. They see a fully armored, highly polished, industrial aesthetic world backed by a bespoke soundtrack.
They see an ecosystem.
They see an ecosystem that already exists, functioning at a high level.
So what does this all mean for you? If you are listening to this right now, maybe you are grinding away on your own project, staring at low metrics, getting ignored by clients. I want to give you an analogy. It is the fundamental difference between walking into a pitch meeting holding a recipe versus walking into that same meeting holding a fully baked cake.
I love that analogy.
If you walk in with a recipe like an idea, a pitch deck, you have to convince the network or the client that you know how to crack the eggs. You have to convince them that your oven works, that you understand the chemistry of baking, and that the final product won't taste like garbage.
Which is a huge ask.
It requires them to take a massive leap of faith and fund the entire baking process.
And most gatekeepers, by definition, are fundamentally risk-averse. Their jobs depend on not making stupid bets. They hate taking leaps of faith.
But if you walk into that same room with a fully baked cake, the conversation completely changes. You don't have to explain the chemistry, you just cut them a slice. The network or the client doesn't have to imagine if you can pull it off, because they are already standing inside of the execution. They are tasting it. That is exactly what Richard Rawlings did. That is exactly what Mickey is doing.
It shifts the leverage entirely. The playbook literally spells it out. Do not pitch an idea. Build the thing, even if it is incredibly small and ugly at first. Master the skills in the dark.
In a sandbox.
Establish your own visual rules, your own rhythms, your own vocabulary. Gas Monkey had the distressed monkey logo and the black and orange colors. Mickey has the steel gray, the hazard yellow, the constant 150 BPM pulse.
Right.
It proves to the client that you aren't just trying things out. You are the mayor of a very specific town that they now want to visit.
Right.
Then you just invite people to film it, or in Mickey's case, invite clients into it.
And the really wild part is how you can retroactively weaponize all that past rejection. The source material talks about how Mickey can take those 100 failed podcast episodes and reframe them completely.
Yeah.
Instead of a graveyard of content that nobody watched, it becomes a vault of undeniable proof. He can cut those old videos up and say, here's day 87 of building my empire. Suddenly, he doesn't look like a guy who just launched a cybersecurity brand yesterday. He looks like a guy who has been methodically building a fortress in public for years.
It creates instant, unshakable credibility. Just like Rawlings could sit down with Discovery executives in 2011 and say, I have been running this shop out of my own pocket successfully for 8 years. You cannot fake that kind of persistence.
No, you can't.
It tells the prospective client that you will still be here tomorrow. In high-level consulting or in television production, stability and persistence are the most valuable commodities you can offer.
This entire deep dive just shatters the myth of the overnight success and the idea of waiting to be discovered. Let's bring all these threads together. The central thesis we've unpacked today is that rejections, whether they are literal spoken no's from a television executive in a Los Angeles boardroom, or the silent, agonizing rejection of 0 podcast downloads and ignored LinkedIn messages, are not a signal to pack it in.
They are the essential business plan. They are the forced incubation period that buys you the time you desperately need.
Yeah.
You need that time to build your inventory, to hone your technical skills without the crippling pressure of massive audience, and to forge your character.
If your content or your business or your creative pursuit is just a pitch deck, you are forever at the mercy of someone else's green light.
Yeah.
But if you spend your time in the shadows building the actual machinery, the printing press, the physical garage, the techno factory, and the cybersecurity fortress, you completely flip the dynamic.
Whether you are trying to flip rusty classic cars in Texas, or you are trying to flip digital attention into corporate cybersecurity consulting in Spain, the takeaway is identical. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to start.
Exactly.
Build the studio, build the garage, bake the cake. Because when the opportunity finally does present itself, you won't be asking a gatekeeper to believe in a fragile concept. You will be asking them to partner with an undeniable reality.
Which brings us to a final lingering thought for you to chew on today. We are so deeply conditioned by school, by our jobs, by society at large, to view rejection as a door slamming shut. It feels final.
It really does.
It feels like a harsh judgment on our worth and our talent. But what if the gatekeepers aren't actually rejecting your idea at all? What if the network executive or the YouTube algorithm or the Fortune 500 corporate client actually loves the concept, but they are simply rejecting your lack of physical proof?
It forces you to ask yourself a terrifying question. If the gatekeeper said yes to your pitch today, right this second, would you actually have the infrastructure and the skills to deliver on it?
If every single no you receive is just the universe buying you the time you actually need to make your creation undeniable, what are you going to build in your own 1,200 square foot garage today?